Welcome to episode 7 of the Same 60 Pokemon podcast. I'm Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake.
My name is Nate, Sky Circus DCG.
And this week, we're going to talk about some recaps. Nate's going to talk about his tournament, his cup finish from a couple weeks ago, and then all about San Antonio. We'll go over the predictions that Connor and I made last week. By the way, Connor's not here. He has some family stuff he needs to attend to this week, so he gets a pass. Then we will go through some meta thoughts on different decks and how they're developing, and we'll finish up with Same 60 Fun Time. Nate's going to play Who's That Pokemon, and then that'll be it. So, good episode, quick episode, maybe not so quick, average duration. I don't know, we'll see how long it goes. That's not what you care about. What you care about is for us to get started. Before we get started, though, I do want to ask, if you could, we really appreciate any support you can give us. Helps us grow, helps us do this and all the other stuff I'm trying to do on the channel. So if you could, leave a like or a comment or both. But the really big one right now is subscribing. That helps more than anything to let us grow. And also just watching stuff. Watch this episode. Watch the whole thing if you can, because that helps too. Even just watching is really a great help. Now with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And we're going to start with Nate. How did your cup 2 weeks ago go?
It was really good. I got second place. Nice. I lost to a Mew in finals with the double turbo version.
Okay, you were playing Gardevoir, right?
Yes, I played Gardevoir. Okay. It usually looks like it's a good matchup in a double turbo Mew, but just getting path locked, I didn't really have that many counters to path. Just didn't draw into them in time. But, sure. I went 5-0 in Swiss. I actually beat the Mew player that I lost to in finals in Swiss.
Oh, that always hurts a little bit. So it's like, I know I can win this. It just didn't go my way when it really mattered.
Yeah. Right. But other than that, it was a fairly good, consistent tournament. I actually faced a weird deck in top 4. It was more like the deck that topped in Gdansk a couple weeks back, maybe 3. It was the Palkia Ice Rider deck. Okay. And I ended up winning that set 2-0, and it was a very fun game.
I feel like that would be a fairly good matchup for Gardevoir, because they've got a 3-prize Pokemon that you can take out with some reversals and whatnot, and even potentially snipe with the
Screamtail.
Screamtail, that's the one. I'm like, with the Jigglypuff, but that's not it. Yep. Well, that's cool. That's great. So, like, your only loss was finals, is that right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Final record was 6-1.
But that's 40 points. That's almost as good as 50. I mean, really.
It really is. I'm sitting at 164 out of 600 right now.
I think I'm at 163. You're one ahead of me. Yeah. The challenge that I won that same weekend with Cloth gave me 5 more points, taking me from 158 to 163. So you're like,
that's silly. Ooh.
You're going to beat the pants off me by the end of the season, though. It's not even going to be close.
I'm going to try.
All right. So from here, that's great. It's a cup. You did great. I'm not belittling that achievement, but the more important thing that everyone really wants to hear about is San Antonio. So
San Antonio.
Yeah, talk to me. I didn't get to go, but you did.
So San Antonio was super fun. Round 1, I hit. Trying to go back here. Round 1.
All right. Well, you refresh your memory. I'm going to ask you some pointed questions.
All right. Cool.
Did you actually? You know what? Before we get to San Antonio, I want to see who won the San Antonio predictions between Connor and I. So, for those of you who maybe don't remember last week, Connor and I both made predictions about what was going to finish where in the top 8 of San Antonio. So what actually happened, Azul won with a Charizard EX, Pidgeot, and Rotom deck. Lost Tina got second place. A kind of Palkia / Chin Pao deck got in the 3rd to 4th spot, along with another Charizard EX. And then in 5th through 8th, we had 2 Snorlaxes, a Lost Tina, and a Miraidon. So that was the actual top 8. Now then, predictions. I predicted that a Charizard with Pidgeot EX would win. That's 2 points for me right there, because I predicted a deck and I got the placement correct. I said second place is going to Miraidon. I'm going to say no points for, even though Miraidon did get into top 8, I actually got the placement correct later on, so I'm not taking points here. For 3rd and 4th, I said Guardy and Tina. So I get 1 point for Tina. It actually ended up in both second place and in the 5th through 8th spot. I'm like that close to getting an extra point, but I didn't get that extra point. And then for the 5th through 8th spots, I said Miraidon, another Guardy, Sablezard, and Mew VMAX. So the only one of those that placed that was in the top 8 was the Miraidon, but I got the placement right as well. So that gives me 2 more points for a grand total of 5. Now then, Connor. Connor said that a Lost Box was going to win the whole thing. Lost Box didn't even show up. I thought it was going to show up. I didn't think it was going to win. Connor said that Charizard EX was going to come in second place. So he gets 1 point for that. Connor said for third and fourth, we're going to see Miraidon and Chin-Pao hands. And Miraidon showed up, so he gets a point there as well. That gives him 2. There was Chin-Pao played in the Palkia deck, but he very explicitly said that the only Chin-Pao that is worth thinking about is Chin-Pao with Iron Hands. And he wasn't talking about a Palkia-based build anyway. He was talking about the Baxcalibur engine with, Bibarel and all that. So no points for Chin-Pao. So we're still at 2, looking into the 5th through 8th spots. For 5th through 8th, he said Snorlax, Guardy, Rapid Strike Box, and Mew. Interesting enough, we both said Guardy and Mew, and we were both wrong. But he did nail that Snorlax would be in 5th through 8th. So he had 2 points. He gets 2 more there for a total of 4. I got 5. That means I get a cookie. So, I get to taste the deliciousness of the Subway cookie that he says is the best cookie you can buy. I'll let you guys know. Maybe I'll eat it on air next week. We'll see. Now, Nate, there's a secret going on. Do you know how you can also get a cookie?
By subscribing to the podcast?
I mean, I would love that. I would love you to subscribe. And in fact, if you haven't subscribed, I need to come over there and slap you upside your head. But no, Connor and I made some predictions last week, some of which were basically that you weren't going to watch the episode last week between when it went out a week ago and when we're recording today. You didn't. So no cookie for you.
Oh, dang it.
That's okay, though. That's okay. I had some follow-up questions, so if you had, said, oh, well, I did. I watched it. I would have been like, okay, well, then tell me this. and you would have been found out. But no cookie for you. Virtual cookies for anyone out there that subscribes. Mention in the comment if you're subscribing for the first time and deserving of a cookie. And I'll find a cookie picture to give you. We'll tell you how next week how many cookies are getting given out. Okay, so now then,
thousands of cookies.
Hopefully, millions of cookies. Cookies everywhere. Cookie Monster. Nom, 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 nom. Okay, so had a little bit of time there. Maybe you've gathered your thoughts a little bit more. Before you start talking about your tournament for San Antonio, I said top there. Don't think that Nate got top 8 because he wasn't one of the 8 that I just mentioned. He was playing Gardevoir.
Yeah, no Guardies inside.
Yeah, Connor and I both thought that Gardevoir would make it. Unfortunately, Nate did not make top 8. But we'll get to that. First, I want to know, you went to Texas. Did you go to Buc-ee's?
I did, and it was great. We actually took a picture with Bucky. It was
awesome.
Amazing.
Very nice. Very nice.
And then we had to stop at Bucky's on our way out as well.
Sure. I mean, you got to. What's Texas without Buc-ee's? I've never been to Buc-ee's. I'm sad.
Sometimes I wish I haven't either. But anyways, the San Antonio run.
Yeah. How'd that go?
So round 1, I ended up going against Lost Box. And this Lost Box deck played heavy Roaring Moon. It played 2 Roaring Moon.
Okay.
And it played 4 Cross Switchers.
Okay.
And it played Iron Hands as well. It's kind of like the Tord pile, right?
Okay.
But without the Palkia and Tina stuff.
Okay. Did it have water energy?
It did.
Did they get some Greninja action going?
Unfortunately, they did not. I benched Manaphy as soon as possible.
Okay. You say unfortunately, but I mean, from your perspective, it sounds like that's fortunate.
For sure, yes. And I also got to bench the Jirachi, so I had both of the Veil Pokemon on my bench, so they couldn't really do much.
So you basically prevented them from ever taking multi-prize turns, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds like you probably won then.
I won that set 2-0.
Nice. All right.
Going into round 2, I went against Iron Valiant Entei.
Iron Valiant Entei. That can be, or at least from what Seagrove used to say, that he liked that matchup because he thought that he could routinely get a knockout just from moving the Valiants around and then get a follow-up with the Entei pretty early on.
Right. I thought that too going into the matchup.
Okay. So you were worried.
I was a little worried.
Okay.
But my opponent started Squawk. I did not know what I was going against. I was going first. So I kind of just benched out. I was like, okay, I just need to set up. I might be going against Miraidon.
Okay, sure.
And then going into my opponent's turn, he drew and just walked and seized. He discarded 6 Switch cards.
6? All right, well, that's no longer good for him, I don't think.
Yep. And when 6 Switch cards are down, it's kind of hard to switch out.
Yeah, I mean, he might get a knockout or 2 there, but then he's going to be just dealing with the whole single prize versus multi-prize shenanigan. So that becomes heavily favored for you, I think.
Yeah, I think like turn two, like turn three of the game, he scooped. He's like, I'm gonna go first,
Sure. Makes sense.
and then game two, I ended up hitting double Arcana, so I was able to knock out pretty much any Pokemon in play without having to put damage on my Guardy.
Nice. Okay. Well, that sounds like you really flipped that matchup and landed it where it needs to be. So you're 2-0 at that point, right?
Yeah,
And not just 2-0, but like both rounds were 2-0s as well, which is cool.
yeah, they're pretty quick overall. Then round three, I ended up hitting a Giratina Lost Box deck,
Okay.
and game one, I got cooked. Started Jirachi Pass,
Oh,
and then they eventually just donked me.
cram and
And
Dan.
then game two, my opponent got a double prize penalty
Okay.
because he drew an extra card off of Iona. So I ended up winning that game barely. And
Right.
then going into game three, we were both at like one prize apiece, so it's like really close.
Mhm.
And my opponent ended up getting it after playing Path of the Peak with Roxanne.
Oh,
And
I hate
I
when
thought-
that. I hate that. Roxanne just feels like I know Pokemon's wanting to like make comeback mechanics better, but I am happy to see Roxanne rotate when it rotates because I think it's now that they've added all these other things that make comebacks easier and stronger. I feel like Roxanne on top of that is just OP. Like you shouldn't like I'm okay with late game Iono and Countercatcher, that's fine. But being able to Roxanne and Countercatcher to like destroy your opponent's hand, get a whole fresh like to do, and still play Countercatcher and stuff is like that's just it's too much. So I'm glad I'll be glad to see Roxanne rotate just for that reason.
And going to this event, I was really prepared for the Path counters this time, like unlike the League Cup I played in.
Okay.
I played Worker and I played 4 Path outs, right? Lost
Okay.
Vacuum, Artisan, Collapse, the Worker. Did not see any of those. So we were like, yep, GG, good luck next round.
Okay, so you're 2-1.
Mhm.
Then round 4.
Round 4 and 5, I hit both Roaring Moon decks.
Okay, so these were like pure Roaring Moon.
hmm
Okay, that
Like with more Pico and like
sure, yeah.
4 Roaring Moons.
That generally is favored for Gardevoir, right?
Yes, I actually wanted, I went 101. I tied one and I won one.
Okay, that's not too bad. So you're at that point then. So that's round 4 or 5. So you're like 3-1-1.
Mhm.
All right. That's
So
decent.
going into round 6, I ended up going against my first Rapid Strike. And
Ooh.
I do not really like that matchup as a Guardian 4 player.
I feel like Rapid Strike has gotten stronger in the Paradox Rift meta.
hmm
I haven't played with it enough because initially I was like, oh, this is going to be bad because Roaring Moon's going to be everywhere and it's just going to like OHKO you and craziness ensues. But I feel like that might be true, but Roaring Moon loses to so many other things that you're maybe protected. And then the things you gain in Turo and in what I assume was part of the problem for you.
TM.
Devo. Yeah, the
Yeah.
de-evolution.
So the thing is, in that matchup, I was really trying to fall behind, but I just couldn't. I couldn't do like the play that I was wanting to do was to bring up something they can't attack with, and then Iono counter their tower, and then knock out their artillery with Screamtail. Could never do that.
Mm.
They always waited until they could like take 5 to 6 prizes in one turn.
I mean, that's what it's about. That's rough. Okay, so then you're 3-2-1.
Mhm.
And you're basically needing to win out if you're going to get to day 2.
Right.
All right. So then in round
7? Yeah, 7. At round 7, I ended up hitting a Baxcalibur Palkia Chien-Pao deck, and I ended up losing.
Was it a Chien-Pao Baxcalibur with like a 1-1 Chin or a 1-1 Palkia teched in, or usually I
Yeah.
feel like Chien-Pao goes either with Palkia or with Baxcalibur, but this had both.
Yes. I ended up losing a very long game 1, so I was kind of like, I really don't want to tie this kind of feeling right now.
Okay.
So game 2, I actually ended up getting it, and then game 3, my opponent started Manaphy Pass, so I was able to donk him.
Nice.
And like, just
Okay.
enough time.
Okay. So now we're 4-2-1.
So we needed to win out 2 more.
Yeah.
And then we ended up hitting Cloth in round 8.
Uh-oh. That
And-
can be good for you, but it can be bad for you too. Like Guardy, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say Guardy can be a tough matchup if you hit everything to get your setup on like the first turn, but if you don't and they just get to roll you, then how'd it go?
So I actually, in game 1, I started Manaphy, and I passed.
Oh, well,
And-
that's a game you lost.
And my opponent said, I just have it in my hand right now.
Yeah.
He just, he benched his Brute Bonnet, attached the capsule, and was like, GG's. And I was like, okay, I'll go first, game 2. And then game 2, I got set up.
Okay.
Well, but by the time my opponent had 2 prizes, I had like 5. So I was like,
Yeah.
He kind of just
Now-
like took consistent prizes over me.
Were you playing Mirage Step builds, or were you playing Rare Candy build?
I was playing Mirage Step with 2 Rare Candy.
Okay. I feel like Mirage Step slows you down a little bit more, which can probably be a little bit more problematic because it lets them get a few more prizes. But at the same time, it's more consistent, so it's kind of a toss-up.
Right.
But I was just curious because I was thinking back to me playing Cloth. All right, so game 2 they won as well.
Yeah, it was like a 2-0 sweep. So I was 4-3-1. I wasn't really upset. I was like, all right, let's go in the last round, get points, right?
Yeah.
And round 9, I hit Charizard. And I was pretty hyped about that because Guardy has a pretty okay matchup into Charizard.
Sure. Yeah.
I won game 1. And going into game 2, I was like, okay, just one more, right? I asked my opponent, it was like, hey, we can do like a gentleman's agreement. Whoever's, taking the most prize cards by game
going
3.
into game 2 or game 3?
I believe game 3.
Okay.
Game 2, my opponent, I don't know why I did, but I ended up bossing the wrong Pokemon on accident, and I was like, crap. And then I ended up using my last counter catcher to bring up the right Pokemon. And playing that boss actually ended up losing me the game.
Okay.
But I was like, that happens. And I was like, okay, game 3. And I brought up the gentleman's agreement. He was like, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Because, we were leaving with no points if we tied.
Sure.
Because time was called, maybe 5 minutes after the game 3 started. And my opponent was ahead by prizes because Guardy just falls behind. I just gave it to him, and I was like, yep, you have a good weekend. And he was a really nice opponent, too.
Okay.
He was like, is there anything I could do for you? I was like, you could follow my Twitter.
Dude, same 60 podcast. Send him to Hoopa Hideout.
But yeah, that was my run. It was really fun. I wouldn't have played anything differently. I had no penalties over the weekend.
That's
It was
good.
the deck I was most comfortable with.
Okay.
And
I mean, people are largely talking about Gardevoir being in a bad spot for tournaments, but I'm not sure how bad I really feel. Like, Iron Hand hurts it, for sure. Without Iron Hands, I think Guardy would be in a great spot. And that hurts it. The De-Evolution TM hurts it some as well. But, I don't know, I still feel like it should be a pretty okay deck. And a pretty powerful deck. I don't know, I think that some of the decks that it does best into aren't as widely played as we initially thought they were going to be. And maybe that's enough reason to go with something else. I know I've obviously been veering toward Cloth because it's so consistent and it sets up so fast that you can often just beat your opponent out of being able to play the game.
super aggressive as well.
But I don't know. I feel like Guardy's getting hit harder than it deserves from most people out there, from all the talking heads. I mean, we're talking heads too, but I guess I'm fighting back against the anti-Guardy machine.
I am too. I'm not totally giving up on Guardy. I'm gonna probably play it in a few more tournaments. I'm gonna actually pick up Rapid Strike for a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, like we said, I felt like Rapid Strike has been good this whole year. I think it's still the deck that earned me the most points overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't mind seeing you finish out the season tearing things up with some Rapid Strike. Honestly, it had warmed my heart. And on that note, going forward, what do you think the strongest decks are?
The strongest decks, for sure Charizard, right? It just won the...
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say Lax is in an okay spot right now.
Okay.
It's more good than bad, for sure.
I keep feeling like just a few tweaks to lists and the way people play against it should be enough to protect them, but I don't know, it's sticking in there.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you're planning to not go against tech decks, you're fine. It's and what decks are going to tech for Snorlax, right?
Well, I mean, honestly, anyone who has who has paid attention to the results over in Europe should have been prepared against Snorlax. And maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I feel like Minior is an easy inclusion that helps out a lot. It's not going to turn it into a win necessarily, but it's going to help. And
it's going to give Snorlax a pretty tough time.
Yeah, the thing that gives Snorlax hope still is all the tools. Minior has to do something about the tools to be able to really stick it to the Snorlax. And there's a couple options there. And actually, so you mentioned Snorlax you think is in a good spot. We've sort of talked about Rapid Strike, and I want to come back to that. We said Zard. I mean, clearly Zard is great. It's doing great. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to propose that the actual BDIF right now is Lost Box with super effective glasses.
It's a pretty good deck.
Dude, I have been loving this deck. I've been tearing it up. I tried to start to build content around it, and the content hasn't done very well that yet. But I really think it's there. You can get like 4 prizes on a Inteleon VMAX. You can, because what happens? You attach super effective glasses to whatever attacker you like need to use for that match. For Snorlax, that's where we started. Where I want to address specifically. I mean, Lost Box has a decent matchup anyway, right? Because they play so many switch cards. They can get an attacker most of the time, especially if they play it right and don't just go crazy trying to get, to 7 on turn 1 or what. Right. But you add in the super effective glasses to Minior, and now Snorlax's tools are nothing.
Exactly.
You could also do Tool Jammer with Minior to turn off like capes and stuff, but I mean, hitting without the glasses, you're hitting 160. With them, you're hitting 240, and then from there, it's just like, all right, let's forget your charms because they ain't nothing. You also get Oko then on the Rotom, which is a big deal
for sure. I think it's really good against Miraidon as well.
Oh yeah, I don't know how many games I've had in trying to learn the deck where it's just been like, okay, you Iron Hands me. Energy, zoom to the active. All right, you got 2 prizes. I got 2 prizes and eliminated 4 of your energy. Good luck.
And then they would also have to set up another Iron Hands, which is, I don't know if it's possible. It's possible if you play the Rod.
It's
most Miraidon decks.
It's possible, but it's not easy at that point. Unless what I've seen that has worked, but still not won them the match, has been a like Thornton build where they already had some energy attached. They were able to then attach a DTE and like get a Flafey energy, and then had one previously attached to some other Pokemon, right? And they play Thornton to then go back into Iron Hands. They were able to, like, that's I want to say that might be the most consistent, or at least the easiest way to get a second Iron Hands in. But even doing it that way, okay,
right.
You take 2 more prizes, I take 2 more prizes, and you're not getting a third Iron Hands set up.
Yeah.
So now you're going to take 1, and then I'm going to take 2 more, because it's really freaking easy for me to recycle Minior, because he only needs 1 energy and a tool, and I have search for all that stuff. So I think, it really helps the Miraidon matchup with Iron Hands. And also, like, I don't even, like, okay, you spend all this effort developing Iron Hands. Well, I have other attack. I have Roaring Moon that can take names. I have my own Iron Hands that can go after your Flavies.
Oh, yeah. So. I was just thinking about it. You don't, like, even necessarily have to do, like, the glasses with the second Iron Hands, right? Or the first Iron Hands? Because you can follow up with a Sableye, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and a lot of times Miraidon ends up having to play down a Squawkabilly to really get set up. And then you can do glasses on your Iron Hands and take 3 prizes. And if they were focusing on building up Iron Hands, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time taking down yours. And then you just have to, like, it's a 3-2-1 game at that point, which is pretty easy for you. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the way forward with Lost Box. I know we've seen Sablezard both with and without Roaring Moon having success, and I like that deck. But my testing so far has said that the Lost Glasses build of Lost Box is so strong.
It's very consistent too.
And like, it starts to struggle a little bit with Lost City. That's the one thing that I've seen some decks play that is a little bit annoying, a little bit troublesome. But I mean, okay, Charizard's the most often one that plays that, and they'll get rid of either your Roaring Moon or your Tropius. But the thing is, you've got both. So you time it right, and they can't get rid of the Roaring Moon initially. And then, okay, they took 1 prize, got rid of a Tropius, but you're ready to go again for 2 more prizes with the Moon. And suddenly, it's like the trade is forever in your favor.
You can make like the last 2 with Iron Hands, right? Like you do 1 gate on Tropius, 1 gate on the Moon, and then the last 2 on the Iron Hands, and you can bring up like any single prize or correct.
Yeah. And you don't even necessarily, because it plays Raihan, which is like low-key MVP in the deck, because it gets, it finishes off attachments to power things up and lets you use gates more efficiently. Mm-hmm. And, also finds you whatever piece you're needing. Like, it's really a good card in that deck. I'm tempted to play an extra, like, go up to 2 copies, because it's that good. But, so the other deck that we're including in sort of the top of the meta going forward is Rapid Strike. And the matchup against Rapid Strike for the Lost Box isn't bad, but it centers around you getting set up quick enough before they're able to really mess you up. If you can get set up and take advantage of them putting out Inteleons, so that you can take like a 4-prize turn against Inteleon VMAX with Iron Hands, you probably are a lock for the game. But if that doesn't work out, then you're probably going to be in trouble. And I think Rapid Strike has a lot of good matchups with the de-evolution options. The fact that Charizard's Terra damage prevention from the bench doesn't apply to abilities lets that de-evolution thing like matter that much more. I know it's not great into Snorlax.
It is not.
And historically, like when I was playing it, I always just like sat there and went, all right, I hope that they don't find the key to messing me over, which is simply bossing up something that can't attack and getting rid of the stadium. It's like that can slow Rapid Strike down enough to ruin its day sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside the new TM de-evolution that we're saying helps it out so much, and it does, is Toro, which I think can be a big deal.
Right.
I don't know if it's enough, specifically against Snorlax, because that's the big one that's going to try to stall you out as often as possible.
Yeah, I think like for Turo, it's more like a healing factor. Also, like reset like pings from the
for sure,
troubleshooter.
For sure.
I feel like if you want to win against the Snorlax matchup, I don't think Turo's exactly the way to do it. It could probably give you like a cheese win. But if you like we brought up earlier, if you play the Minior and you like put Minior in the active multiple times, and then Turo, and all those energies hit the discard, and you can get right back with the energy retrieval, that might be okay. But I haven't really seen where you could put Minior in the deck yet.
I mean, there's always you can always find a card to replace, but yeah, I think figuring that matchup out, or having enough of the meta figure out the Snorlax matchup that it goes away. One of those two things has to happen for Rapid Strike to really do as well as it can or should. Mm-hmm. And then
I might try to fix.
Hey, yeah, like I say, anything I can do to help you with Rapid Strike, I'm down for, because I love the deck and I want to see it have more success. I like that finally, like, it's starting to get mainstream for people to play Squawkabilly over Luminion, because I'm like, that has been the way. Number one rule.
It also plays Spiritomb, so I'm like, how do you consistently play Luminion?
Yeah. Very.
Like you can
agreed.
you can accidentally start Spiritomb and your Luminion's like instantly turned off.
Yeah.
And like in this meta right now, you're probably wanting to bench Spiritomb against most things. You want to bench Spiritomb against Blocklax. You want to bench Spiritomb against Charizard.
Yeah, because they have Rotom too.
Rotom and Luminion.
Yeah.
You want to definitely bench it against Mew.
Yeah.
And I think those are like the important decks you want to bench Spiritomb against.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it helps other places too. Anything that uses Luminion, it can help against. I mean, actually, it doesn't matter now because Lugia is nowhere, but it helps against Lugia to turn off their Luminions for being able to help them actually get set up, which was historically was kind of a tough matchup for Rapid Strike. Although now it's not relevant, which actually is another reason that Rapid Strike is probably getting better and better. Turns off Drapion, which actually is a little relevant if decks play it, because that's a free energy attacker.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think it's in a good spot, and ironing out just the few rough edges could make it really, really good. I feel like we're starting to beat a dead horse talking about the same decks, so I want to move on, and I want to challenge you.
Uh-oh, I'm excited.
Who's that Pokemon? So I'll pop it up here over my face for the video, and I will read the description to you, and we'll see if you can beat Connor's score of 5. The Pokemon description is, it carries food. I'm sorry, the Pokedex description of this Pokemon, of your mystery Pokemon. The Pokedex says, it carries food all day long. There are tales about people who were saved by the food it had.
Ooh. It instantly makes you want to think about like certain Pokemon that have like storage for like how their like body is built, like Bombardier or like Delibird, and for some reason it makes me think about Morpeko because Morpeko loves food.
No, okay.
But go ahead and give me a type.
Let's see the types. All right. Ice and Flying.
Oh, I definitely know what this is. I'm going to give my guess, and it is Delibird.
All right. It is Delibird. Congratulations, dude. Score of 9. So see, one of the things that you missed in the last episode is that I actually, and it was the like trap secret that we were saying you had to beat Connor's score of 5, when actually you had to beat my score of 8.
Oh, wow.
But you did, so nice job. And next week, we will face off head to head.
Got 9 though. That's pretty impressive.
That is quite impressive. I was curious. I was like, okay, can Iron Bundle fit into this? Probably not, but the Ice and Flying. I was like, maybe we can get room for a brand new Pokemon that Nate didn't name, but it didn't happen. So good job.
Man, Morpeko would have been really.
I mean, and that's why that's why using one hint sometimes is good, because like if you had guessed Morpeko, like you could have then followed with Delibird again, but Ice and Flying, knowing that, I think made it like a almost sure thing, as opposed to here's my weakness. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up for this week. Thank you to everyone out there. Again, we appreciate anything you do to support us. We appreciate you just watching and listening, and really that is the biggest thing that you can do to help us grow, is to just keep watching and listening and if there's something we can be covering, if you have a suggestion that would make the podcast that much better, we'd love to hear it. And if not, you're probably not here if you're not watching the whole thing. But if you happen to be and you're not planning on watching anything else we do ever again, it still helps us out a lot if you can comment, if you can subscribe, and a like is great.
I'll be liking this video for sure.
I appreciate it. I like that you like. And with that, we'll go ahead and finish up for today. This has been Jeffrey, JGB146 Blake,
Nate Kirksey, Sky Circus TCG.
Thank